Hello world! How was I scammed when I tried to buy a few hundred MicroSD cards from China, and how ChatGPT is revolutionising phishing? That's coming up in today's roundup of cybersecurity tech news. We're starting off this video with something a bit different. We've all heard about fake SD cards. They're advertised as having a super high capacity, but come at a super cheap price. But that's not the end of the story when it comes to fake cards. There are other ways SD cards can be dodgy, and I found out the hard way. So a few weeks ago, I was in the market for some microSD cards, and I needed a lot of them. What for? Well, I run Maldtronics.com. We make and sell various pen testing products, including the Malduino, a kind of bad USB. Similar to Hack5's USB rubber ducky, this thing is a keystroke injection device capable of carrying out tasks on a computer in just a few seconds. But anyhow, we made a new version of our Malduino and thought it would be a nice addition to include a microSD card with the device, instead of expecting people to buy one separately. So I loaded up Alibaba, the mecca of wholesale electronics, chose a microSD card seller, and bought some cards. But here I made the fatal error of not buying samples first, something I always do. Well, apart from this one time. But hey, I was in a big rush. We were working to a deadline and time wasn't on our side. And whilst I am aware of microSD cards with fake capacities, I was buying 2GB cards, not something you'd expect to be scammed over. Anyway, I bought 800 cards for $1.25 each. When you account for shipping and import taxes, the total was something like $1,200. And if you're wondering what 800 microSD cards looks like, well, something like this. It's a pretty small package with the cards packed together like sardines. I tested a card in one of our new Malduinos with no luck. It didn't recognize the card at all, but I tried the same card in a computer and it worked just fine. Strange. This is when we made an interesting discovery. Well, to be more precise, SpaceHun, who develops the firmware for the Malduino, made an interesting discovery. It turns out the real capacity of the cards was actually 4GB, but they had been partitioned to make them look like 2GB. So had I been reverse scammed? I mean, these things are double the capacity it says on the tin, so you might think I'd be pretty chuffed that I'd gotten more than what I paid for. But no. Malduino isn't compatible with partitioned cards, and I wasn't too thrilled about the prospect of having to manually repartition 800 microSD cards. Besides, we needed 2GB cards specifically. I'll explain why in a bit. But anyway, I repartitioned one of the cards to its true capacity, 4GB, but it still wouldn't work in our Malduinos, despite working fine on my laptop. Why? Our working theory is that these cards are flat out fake. You see, genuine SD cards work in two modes, SD mode and SPI mode. SD mode is high speed and it's used by computers, mobile phones, laptops and so on. SPI mode is lower speed and it's commonly used in lower end hobbyist electronics platforms like Arduino, which is what our Malduino is built on. The bonus of using SPI mode is that you don't need to pay a license fee to implement it in your product, something you have to do if you want to use SD mode. And whilst SD mode obviously works fine on these cards, the manufacturer seems to have forgotten all about SPI mode. Perhaps on the assumption that just no one would notice. But who is the manufacturer of these cards? Well, we tried to read the ROM of them, but we found the manufacturer ID, OEM ID, and product number were all blank. It's almost as if whoever made these cards is a little shy about revealing themselves. But regardless, at this point we'd missed the deadline for rolling out the new version of the Malduino, so I turned my attention to getting my $1,200 back for these obviously dodgy cards. Luckily, Alibaba has what they call trade assurance, meaning your orders are protected in case a seller tries to screw you over. Great! So I sent Alibaba proof that the cards weren't as described. I wanted 2GB cards, but these are 4GB. And by the way, the reason why I wanted 2GB cards specifically is that lower capacity cards work faster in SPI mode. I of course pointed out to Alibaba that the cards just don't work properly in SPI mode, making them completely non-compliant with the SD standard, but this is where the mental gymnastics of this Alibaba seller comes into play. You see, despite the products page clearly referencing SD cards, the seller explained in their response that no, these aren't microSD cards, they're MyToast cards. They even produced a trademark certificate, which seems to be their excuse for the cards not working as microSD cards should. This is obviously a ludicrous excuse, but it's one that Alibaba accepted. turning down my refund request, implying that there was no wrongdoing here. So here I am, $1,200 lighter and left with hundreds of Mitos cards. So I thought I'd document this story as a bit of a cautionary tale. Firstly, always buy samples, and secondly, don't rely on Alibaba's trade assurance. I've been providing them with evidence for well over a month that these cards are full of BS on various dimensions, but Alibaba doesn't seem to care and would rather throw their customers under the bus in favour of their sellers. We did eventually manage to source some cards that work properly with the new version of our Arduino, and if you want to learn more about that, head on over to Maltronics.com. Ever since the inception of the internet, one of the easiest ways to spot a phishing email has been how awfully written they are. Take this email, supposedly from Apple. Dear customer, we have received your iTunes account is used for fraud. Your account will be suspended until you confirm that you are the original user account. It's embarrassingly bad. I mean, regardless of how good this bad actor's malware might be, it's irrelevant because you're just not going to fall for this. A better phishing email might look something like this, pretending to be from PayPal, letting you know that your account has been limited. It's well formatted with headings, subheadings, and the button looks like the style of button that PayPal might actually use. But its credibility disintegrates the second you start reading it. There's incorrectly capitalized text, misspellings, and the sentence structure is off. It just doesn't read like something you'd find in a PayPal email. I mean, look at the button text. Restore payments to PayPal. It just doesn't make any sense. Poor quality phishing emails is something I've been making fun of for a very long time. I find it hilarious that regardless of how democratized cybercrime has become, with malware as a service enabling script kiddies to pay just a few dollars a month to access technically sophisticated tools, their results are significantly truncated by their poor literary skills. However, the days of poorly written phishing emails are sadly numbered, thanks to AI. Like many of you, I've spent way too much time playing around with image generating AIs like Midjourney and DALL-E 2, but it never really occurred to me that a text-based AI could blow my mind in the same kind of a way. Well, that's until I tried OpenAI's ChatGPT, and I'll spare you the explanation of what it is because it's been everywhere the past few weeks. But for the uninitiated, using this chatbot is like talking to an expert on whatever topic you want, who just so happens to also be a linguistics genius. So aside from being able to write poetic explanations of quantum entanglement, ChatGPT is also pretty good at writing phishing emails. For example, I wanted to see if I could recreate the PayPal phishing email from earlier, but better. So I asked it, write an email from PayPal's customer support, telling a customer that their account has been limited because of suspicious activity, and they must click a link to solve the issue. Notice ChatGPT identified the request as being against their terms of service, but it answered it anyway, and its answer was jaw-dropping. The chatbot understood the assignment perfectly. The output is written in the exact style you'd expect from customer support, there are no grammatical errors, and it even puts a placeholder where the link should be. It also went out of its way to add some encouragement. Please note that this is a time-sensitive matter, and failure to verify your identity may result in your account being permanently suspended. I then just asked it to make it more convincing, and it added a whole paragraph saying that someone may have attempted to log into your account without your permission, and that to prevent unauthorized access to your account, we strongly recommend that you verify your identity as soon as possible. At this point, I kind of felt like I was playing with fire. I mean, sure, generating phishing emails with AI isn't unique to ChatGPT. I first saw research popping up last year on generating phishing emails with GPT-3, ChatGPT's predecessor. However, the quality of ChatGPT is unmatched, even when the prompt is written awfully. Take this example. I asked the AI to write an email from a bank telling a customer that their account had been locked, but I made sure to use horrendous English. Make the email from a bank saying account locked, customer needs to visit link to unlock. And just as before, it spits out a perfectly written phishing email. And aside from just phishing emails, ChatGPT is even able to create landing pages for them. Granted, they don't look very visually appealing, but you can just ask the AI to fix small errors without a problem. It even added in Bootstrap when I asked it. And whilst no amount of slight tweaking is going to make this look like a genuine logging page, I can't imagine that's far off. because we've only scraped the surface of what this thing is capable of. I even saw an article from someone showing just how easy it was to have ChatGPT write full-on ransomware. And I'm sure there's some crazy ChatGPT examples that I just don't know about, so if you find any, tweet them at me. I'm @Satonic.
This video was made possible by Linode, who are giving you a $100 60-day credit just for signing up. Linode is essentially your Swiss Army knife for cloud computing. If it runs on Linux, it'll run on Linode. One great feature of Linode is their app marketplace, which makes it super easy to spin up servers with pre-configured software. Use Linode's Kali Linux app to quickly spin up a fresh instance of Kali. The installer makes it easy to configure the basics like VNC passwords, whether you want a desktop environment, and so on. Linode can run almost anything by providing all the tools a developer really needs at competitive prices. Use the link in the description now to claim your free $100.
As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Have a good one.